Good morning. Welcome to CATEX-TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. This is a live broadcast from Princeton, New Jersey. Today is Thursday, December 17th, 2009. It's 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the United States. It's 4:30 p.m. in London. In Hamilton, it's 12:30 p.m. and in Mexico City, it's 10:30 a.m. If you need to reach us during the broadcast, you can phone in toll-free at 1-866-67-CATEX. Overseas, our AOL instant mail address is CATEX-TV. 72-year-old Prime Minister of Italy, Silvio Berlusconi, has been released from the hospital in Milan, where he spent 3 nights recovering from the beating from a protester who hit him in the face with a statuette. I don't know where the Prime Minister's security guards were, but if that happened in the United States, there would be hell to pay. Now to our main economic news. The jobless numbers are in. More Americans than anticipated filed first-time claims for unemployment last week. Obviously, this is a reminder that the labor market is lagging behind the rest of the economy in recovering from the recession. Initial jobless claims rose by 7,000, all the way up to 480,000 in the week ending December 12th. Federal Reserve policymakers yesterday met in Washington, and at the conclusion of the meeting, said that weakness in the labor market is restraining consumer spending. In the United States, consumer spending accounts for 70% of the American economy. Concerns over the lack of jobs prompted the Federal Reserve to reiterate a pledge to keep the benchmark interest rate low for an extended period. Just before we came on the air, the New York-based Conference Board came out with their leading economic indicators, and they show that, in fact, they have risen for the 8th consecutive month. The New York-based Conference Board's gauge of the outlook for the next 3 to 6 months rose 0.9% more than forecast after climbing 0.3% in October. Separate reports showed Philadelphia area manufacturing grew in December at the fastest pace in more than 4 years, at the same time that initial jobless claims rose. One analyst said the nascent recovery is ending 2009 on a high note. Economists had forecast that the leading indicators would rise only 0.7%. Instead, they went up 0.9. So that's, I guess, on balance, one cancels the other one out. Meanwhile, back at the ranch in Copenhagen, the Danes have to be wondering why they ever volunteered to host this thing. But we're coming down to the end of 2 weeks. The climate summit has reached a critical phase. Key rounds of talks are occurring today, and those talks will determine whether or not the meeting will be a success or a failure. The climate chief, the United Nations climate chief, Ivo de Boer, urged delegates from 193 countries to overcome their differences and produce a deal. Mr. de Boer said, "I still believe it's possible to reach a deal success. The next 24 hours are absolutely critical." The next 24 hours will be the end of the meeting. Today, environmental ministers are set to meet for final rounds of negotiations, hoping to salvage a climate pact from half-finished draft texts and overcome long-running rifts between rich and poor countries over how to split the cost of fighting climate change. The meetings come as dozens of heads of state descend on Copenhagen, hoping to add their weight in the final days of the talks. About 120 leaders are expected to be there. Security is being tightened now around the Danish capital following days of protests. Yesterday, of course, police in riot gear clashed with protesters, and even in the hall, impromptu protests took place. Presidents of Iran, Brazil, and France are scheduled to address the conference today. Wen Jiabao, the Chinese Prime Minister, arrived last night, and President Obama is due to arrive tomorrow morning. Just an hour or two ago, U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton made an announcement at the climate summit, saying that the United States will help raise $100 billion annually by 2020 to assist poor countries in coping with climate change as long as America's demands for global warming are met. Clinton's announcement, made during a packed news conference, represents a major breakthrough in the talks. That same gentleman, Mr. Ivo de Boer, indicated that hold tight and mind the doors. The cable car is moving again, following Clinton's announcement, indicating we may get a talk. He said he's keenly looking forward to the meetings later today and tomorrow morning with the President and with the other world leaders. So this is more interesting than a labor union negotiation, but eventually it'll come down to a resolution, I hope. Meanwhile, in Europe, there was a 6.3 magnitude earthquake. It shook southern Spain and Portugal earlier today. Here's a picture of it. You see it was out to sea a little bit. It was approximately 100 kilometers southwest of Cape St. Vincent in Portugal. The quake struck at 2:37 a.m. local time, or 01:37 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. It was a 6.3 earthquake, according to the Spanish. There have been no reports of any damage or injuries. The quake was felt as far away as Morocco's Atlantic cities of Tangier, Rabat, and Casablanca, but the Moroccans are reporting no injury or damages. Meanwhile, in Florida, the acrimonious battle with State Farm and the insurance department seems to have finally resolved itself. The state has granted permission to State Farm to increase their rates by 14.8% on their homeowners insurance. And they've also given State Farm permission to drop 125,000 policyholders. Our friend, Insurance Commissioner of Florida, Kevin McCarty, said that he had ended the year-long dispute and resolved pending legal action with State Farm and issued an order allowing the non-renewal of 125,000 of State Farm's 810,000 Florida policies. McCarty said by the terms of the order, State Farm will remain a significant player in the Florida residential property insurance market. State Farm, of course, had issued a withdrawal plan on January 27th of this year, almost a year ago, a month after a judge had upheld McCarty's denial of a 67% rate increase request from State Farm. In February, McCarty said the insurer could withdraw, but only by complying with a stringent set of conditions that he would lay down. The company argued that it was going broke in Florida. The commissioner said that the State Farm's contention that it was facing insolvency and was unable to pay claims was both, quote, disingenuous and misleading. He noted today in his statement that even after the cancellations, State Farm would remain the largest private insurer of property insurance risk in Florida. State Farm Florida, on their behalf, issued a statement saying, "We apologize for any inconvenience or anxiety this process might cause our customers, but this is a necessary step for us as we attempt to stabilize our financial conditions." Well, our friend in Perils AG, Dr. Hitz, has a hit here. Perils AG, the European Catastrophe Loss Tracking Organization, has placed the first 2 insurance risk transactions based on its industry loss index. The transactions involve ILW reinsurance contracts that provide protection against a major European windstorm event. Credit Suisse is the protection provider in one contract. Munich Re is the counterparty. The other contract was arranged by Willis with unidentified counterparties. Perils AG role will be to provide independent data to assess property losses following a large wind event in Europe. The information will be used to produce an index value to determine the payout of the ILW contracts. Lucy Hitz said, quote, "These 2 transactions are the first ILWs to use a Perils index. This is an important development as it illustrates the key role which Perils plays as an independent loss aggregator for European windstorm events." Stock market in the U.S. is taking a hit. It's down about 85 points. We'll go to a word from our sponsors.
Every day, the world wakes up and goes to work, pursuing the unique opportunities that lead the global economy forward. The complexity and close connectivity of today's global marketplace is a true modern miracle that can create unparalleled success. But it takes confidence, passion, innovation, and understanding.
Enabling opportunity.
Protecting capital.
Engineering innovation.
Investing in your future.
Ensuring continuity.
Finding the right balance.
It takes Aon.